Hey gang, how's it going? This is Nate on the Stone, and welcome to the 12th episode of The Rolling Stone. If you've been around here before, and if you've subscribed to the channel, first of all, thank you very much. Glad to have your support, more than you probably will ever know. And if you're joining us for the very first time, first of all, welcome to The Stone. These videos are a little different than the ones that I put up on Tuesday. Very few clips, cuts. These are stream of consciousness videos where I give my first thoughts and impressions about stories that are currently in the news. So, without further ado, we're going to get started with one of the really, truly big pieces of news this week, which is that James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. We've talked about them before here, both on the Stone videos and some Rolling Stone videos. In February, we talked about their exposure of Facebook's bias, outright bias against people on the right. And now Project Veritas and James O'Keefe have done it again with Google. They have released undercover video from guerrilla journalists, documents, plus the testimony of a whistleblower in which Google's outright political bias was exposed for everyone to see. So the video from the guerrilla journalists, it was concerning Jen Gennay, who is the head of responsible innovation. Doesn't that sound just Orwellian to you? The head of responsible innovation. And she was caught, okay, on camera by this guerrilla journalist saying this, quote, "Elizabeth Warren is saying we should break up Google. And like, I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better. It will make it worse, because all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do that." Okay, so just in case you were wondering, she is saying, because Elizabeth Warren has made a big deal saying that the government needs to break up tech companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter, on the basis that they are actually monopolies. And so Jen Gennay comes out and says, no, you can't do that. You can't break us up, because if you do that, what is going to prevent the next Trump situation? i.e., who is going to stop the next person like Donald Trump from getting into the White House or getting into some political office, right, and blowing up the whole system? So basically what Jen Gennay is saying is that Google needs to exist so that the undesirables, okay, don't get into political office. They don't have any sort of influence, don't have any sort of power whatsoever. However, it gets even better, because Jen Gennay continued. She said, quote, "We all got screwed over in 2016. Again, it wasn't just the people got screwed over. The news media got screwed over. Like, everybody got screwed over. So we're rapidly been like, what happened there and how do we prevent it from happening again? We're also training our algorithms. Like, if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?" Unquote. Okay. So that is how it gets even scary. I told you it was going to get better. Google now is training their algorithm. They said training their algorithm so that certain results won't come up. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, the whistleblower, when the whistleblower came out and was talking to James O'Keefe, the whistleblower said that Google has machine learning fairness. Okay, machine learning fairness. It is one of several tools that Google uses to twist search engine results. Okay, so you get the results that Google wants you to get, not maybe the results that you want, and not the results that reflect reality. So, for example, the whistleblower gave some examples of this. So, the whistleblower said, if you Google women can, right? You open up Google in a browser and you start Googling women can. What's going to pop up in the suggestions is women can vote, do anything. Okay. But if you Google men can, the suggested searches that are going to pop up are men can have kids, get pregnant, have periods, do nothing. Okay? So very obviously there, Google is pushing a political bias. They are pushing an agenda. They are pushing an ideology, which can be clearly seen in there, right? In those search results. And it gets even scarier. Actually, I know you guys are probably like, whoa, 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 whoa. They are actively saying that that Google cannot allow another 2016 to happen. They can't allow another Trump situation to happen. And now they are actively, twisting search results in their algorithms. How can it get worse? Oh, don't worry, it can. Because according to the whistleblower, again, Google has also established what is being called a single point of truth for what it decides is newsworthy or not. Okay, what is newsworthy or not, and they are creating what is called a new ecosystem in which Google makes decisions about what they promote and distribute. Okay? So they are saying that a news story is only newsworthy if it has a common denominator of truth, okay? And there is the new ecosystem about what exactly they promote and they distribute. So what that means is that they're deciding what news is actually news, and they're deciding what they're actually going to promote and distribute. Now, you might say, okay, well, maybe that's not so bad, right? I mean, they're distinguishing between truth and falsehood, right? Not exactly, because one of the things that the machine learning fairness does is that it attempts to get rid of algorithmic unfairness. Okay? Now, get a load of this. Algorithmic unfairness. They actually describe it. It says, this was actually in one of the Google documents that was leaked to Project Veritas. The question is if a representation is factually accurate, can it still be algorithmic unfairness? The answer is yes. For example, imagine that a Google image query for CEOs shows predominantly men. Even if it were a factually accurate representation of the world, it would be algorithmic unfairness because it would reinforce a stereotype about the role of women in leadership positions. However, factual accuracy may affect product policy's position on whether or how it should be addressed. In some cases, it may be appropriate to take no action if the system accurately affects current reality, while in other cases, it may be desirable to consider how we might help society reach a more fair and equitable state via either product intervention or broader corporate social responsibility efforts. In other words, if reality contradicts an ideological position, that is still algorithmic unfairness, and Google is actually going to try to quote-unquote correct that. But they are actually going to allow the truth to exist if it pushes their agenda, their ideology, what they want. And this was all beautifully summed up by the whistleblower who said, quote, they, Google, is going to redefine reality based on what they think is fair and based on what they want. That, to me, is one of the most terrifying things that I have ever heard. Because if you can redefine reality based on what you want, then you have basically assumed for yourself the ultimate power. Okay? Think about Google. It's the biggest search engine on the internet. Okay? By far, biggest search engine imaginable. Millions of people in every hour of the day all around the world are using Google, right? To from everything from, looking up cat videos to looking up how to fix a faucet to doing research for school to find articles to learn, to expand their knowledge, etc., etc., etc. And all of that power is held by people who want to redefine reality based on what they want reality to be, not on what reality actually is. And they make no bones about wanting to do that. It's kind of funny, when this story first broke, I thought, the Russians have nothing on Google, okay? I don't particularly care for the Russians. I don't trust the Russians. I do not trust Vladimir Putin as far as I could throw him. And I've been slacking off on my push-ups, so you know what? I probably wouldn't even be able to lift them up in a bear hug right now in my present condition. Long and the short of it is, I don't trust them, okay? So, when everyone said that the Russians had tried to muddle with the 2016 elections, and then when the Mueller report came out and confirmed that and said that yes, the Russians had actually tried as far back as 2014, tried to influence the election, was I surprised? No. When you're a foreign government, when you're a foreign power, and you're not particularly friendly to the United States, that's automatically what you would try to do. Google, however, it's an American company founded by Americans. They're supposed to be guided by American principles, American values, Western values, right? Western principles, the free exchange of information, free speech, right? Debating in the arena of ideas, argument, truth over falsehood. Not this social engineering, social Frankensteining where everyone is going to be brainwashed. Not only in order to to gain certain results in political elections, but also just to create the world that they want. That's the power that Google has taken for itself. This isn't some hypothetical. This isn't like, oh, Google's trying to do this. This is what Google is actually doing right now, okay? And it would have continued to do that if Project Veritas had not exposed them. And who knows, they might still try to get away with it, because like all ideologues, they're never going to give up. They're never going to say die. So that is one of the big pieces of news that we have. Google is actively social engineering us, right? And redefining reality according to its image and what it wants, not according to what is actually present in the world around us. So that's our first story. Second story actually comes from the United Kingdom, okay? Because a judge, Justice Natalie Levere, who sits on the Court of Protection, and the Court of Protection in the UK is there for people who are not mentally all there, right? So in case so they rule in these people's behalf. Well, last week, she actually ruled that a 20-year-old unidentified woman who was 22 weeks pregnant would have to get an abortion. Okay, now let me reiterate that. This 20-year-old unidentified woman, she's 22 weeks pregnant, 23 weeks pregnant now. She's Catholic. She's of Nigerian descent because her mom, okay, is Nigerian. She and her mom have both said that she doesn't want to get an abortion. She wants to have her baby, okay? And the mother of the pregnant woman actually reiterated that I will take care for both my daughter and my granddaughter, because of course the big wigs in the bureaucracy in the UK were saying, well, you're not mentally all there. How are you actually going to take care of this baby? The mother of the pregnant woman said, I'll take care of my daughter and my grandchild. And this Judge Natalie Levin, basically said, no, I'm still going to order you to get an abortion, and I'm going to order a doctor to perform an abortion on you. Her justification for this was that, well, an abortion is just in the best interests of the mother and of the child, because first, she said, she played the mental handicap card. She said, I think she would like to have a baby in the same way she would like to have a nice doll, unquote. So, right off the bat, the mom doesn't know what's going on. So, we can totally kill the baby. We can totally force her to get an abortion against her will. And then she said that, as traumatic and as sad as an abortion will be, it's better than her actually giving birth and then having to give her baby up for adoption, because that's just going to be much more traumatic for her. This is just better for everyone. Now, fortunately, this idiotic, asinine, and I'm just going to go there, evil, blatantly evil decision was overturned by a higher court in the UK, proving that there are still some people, even in the United Kingdom judiciary system, who have some iota, not just of common sense, but of common human decency and compassion. But the thing that I wanted to focus on this story is this. People who are pro-life, okay, they have made sort of one of their arguments for the pro-life position has been rather pragmatic. I talked about a few weeks ago on my On the Stone video about Noah Pothevin, about how, the death culture, it starts saying, well, these people can die, and then pretty soon from that it gradually expands. We talked about how babies who have some sort of disability, yeah, we can kill them, and then it creeps over, oh, the elderly, you know what, yeah, you can die, we can kill you. And then it talks about, well, people who are born, but if they are autistic, or if they're suffering from addiction, or if they're suffering from depression, you know what, we can all kill them. And the pragmatic pro-life argument has been, how long is it going to be before a group that you're in is going to be put on the list of people that we can potentially kill, potentially get rid of? How long is it going to be before that happens? This case, this story, proves that we don't have to make that hypothetical argument anymore. Why? Because the whole argument for abortion anymore stems from women's choice, women autonomy, right? Reproductive freedom, reproductive justice. If you want an abortion, you can get an abortion. And if you don't want an abortion, you don't have to get an abortion, right? Now we have a judge saying, no, you don't want an abortion, but I know what's best, so you're going to have an abortion. Now what that means, okay, is that no one has an intrinsic right to life. I mean, the abortion argument has already said basically that there is no intrinsic, natural, inalienable right to life, because if there was, then you couldn't have abortion whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. But this case goes a step further, because it says, no, if the mother doesn't want to get an abortion, but the ideologues, the elite, the powers that be, if they still think that that mother should get an abortion, then they can force her to get that abortion. So it's just laid out plain and straight on the table. There is no inalienable natural right to life for anybody. Okay? For anybody. Because if you don't have an inalienable natural right to life before you're born, or right after you're born, why do you have it after you're born? What's the difference? So if we take the logic to its logical end, we can see that there's no reason. It's completely arbitrary to say that you have a right to life after you're born, but not before you're born. Now, take it one step further. If there is no inalienable natural right to life at all for anyone, and life is basically just a privilege that the elite or the vanguard, the powers that be, the ideologues, call them whatever you want, if it's just a privilege that they bestow upon all of us, right, then that means that there are no rights whatsoever, because all of our rights, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, press, association, right to bear arms, even take some of the ones that the left is going on and on and on about today. The right to migrate wherever you want, the right to housing, the right to a living wage, quote unquote, whatever the hell that is, right? None of these can be rights, because if you don't have an inalienable right to life, none of these other rights can exist, because every other right stems from the right to life. Because if you're dead or inanimate, you can't have any rights at all. That's sort of the prerequisite to actually have rights. No right to life, no other rights. That's about as simple as it can get. So really what this judge was saying is that there is no right to life and there are no other rights. All the rights that you claim to enjoy come from the government, okay? Or from the powers that be even, really, the cabal. And that's terrifying, because if the cabal gives you your rights, they can completely take them away whenever they want for whatever reason. There's the quote from The Picture of Dorian Gray. Mr. Gray, the gods have been very generous with you, but what the gods give, they very soon take away. And that's exactly what it is. People acting as demigods and now are really just flexing their power and saying, no, you think you're in charge, you think that you live in a Republican government or in a Western-style democracy. No. You are basically just pawns. You are basically ants that we're going to move on the board for, the betterment of our ideology, which is the end goal is to bring utopia, with themselves in charge, of course, because they are the vanguard and they are the enlightened ones. So that's really what that story shows, okay? If you take the logic of abortion to its natural end, that's where it leads. A world without rights. And a world without rights is just a world of privilege. And, if people give you privileges, they can very quickly take them away too, for whatever reason that they want. So that's our second story. Our third and final story for this episode, it's a little bit jovial because, we can get kind of grim here on these weekends, and who wants to go into the weekend grim? But at the very same time, there is a deeper lesson, as always. And this was a piece that I saw on HuffPost this past week, the headline of which was, "Can your boss legally make you wear a bra to work?" Okay, so to add a little context to this, the story was about dress codes and about how, okay, can your boss actually require you as part of the dress code to wear a bra to work if you're a woman, okay? And they were going on and on. The piece was going on and on about how, well, you have to word it like this, because of, it gets into equality issues. And that's where the piece really got interesting. And that's where the deeper meaning of this story takes place. I mean, first of all, just completely ridiculous. It's like, yeah, please wear a bra in a professional setting, do I really have to explain why, women should do that? Do I really have to explain it in 2019? But anyway, the deeper meaning of the story came out when the piece started saying that according to California law and according to actually New York's law, okay, so California and New York City, you actually can't force women specifically to wear a bra at work as part of a dress code, because that reinforces gender stereotypes. So basically, you either have to require all your employees to wear a bra, or you have to, you can't make anyone wear a bra. It's all or none, because that is reinforcing gender stereotypes, which of course reinforces the patriarchy, etc., etc. Now, the deeper meaning to this story is that we are really at a time when we're given two choices. First of all, let me back up. Stereotypes exist because stereotypes are always rooted in some sort of a truth. Okay? If there was no truth behind a stereotype, that stereotype wouldn't exist. Now, stereotypes can be exaggerations of the truth, especially when we're making fun of them. Okay? But they're all rooted in some sort of a truth. So gender stereotypes, they completely exist. The gender stereotype that men are naturally stronger physically than women. The gender stereotype that women are just naturally more compassionate than men. That is a gender stereotype. The idea that men are more naturally aggressive, in a work setting, that's a gender stereotype. The fact that women are much better at multitasking than men on average, that's a gender stereotype. But all those gender stereotypes exist because they're all based on some sort of truth. That's not to say, that women can't be physically strong, that they can't focus on one thing at a time, that, that they can't be tough in a business or a professional setting. Women obviously can and are. However, on general, it's just that men are more so like that, right? So they're all based on some sort of a truth. Now, we can either accept that. We can accept that natural hierarchy. We can accept that that's just the way things are naturally and because of our human nature. And we can work within that hierarchy. We can work within those parameters. Or what we can do is completely discard them, completely blow them up, and try to set up some sort of, again, utopian system where, no, there's not going to be any differences. There aren't going to be any stereotypes at all. But what that means is that these new norms, these new conditions, they're going to be completely synthetic. They're going to be completely, absolutely 100% fake. Because they're not rooted in the truth. They're not rooted in nature. They're not rooted, to kind of circle back to that Google story we had at the very beginning, they're not rooted in what actually is. And what that means is that, of course, we're going to have code after code, law after law, regulation after regulation, trying to actually obtain this utopian vision. Because that's the only way that these things can exist, and that's the only way that they can actually last for any amount of time. Because sooner or later, people naturally just kind of go back to how things naturally are. They go back to their natural strengths and their natural weaknesses. Now, for me, I would much rather live in a world ruled by a natural hierarchy and ruled by natural stereotypes, because that gives you an unlimited amount of freedom, right? When you are free to be strong where you're strong, and where other people can be strong where you're weak, because we complement each other. We actually fit together like the pieces of a puzzle. We're all different. We're all shaped differently. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, both individually and as men and women, but we fit together, and we can overcome so much more than just this arbitrary idea, this arbitrary vision created by some pointy-headed academic or, dreamer somewhere, who then decided that he knows better than 10,000 years of human history and 50,000 years of human evolution, and he knows what's best. And then we're going to have this whole society of laws, regulations, codes, forcing us into spaces that we don't fit into, right? Forcing the round peg into the square hole, or vice versa, as the case may be. But I have talked for way too long, as always, so I am going to wrap it up here, and I am going to say, have a great weekend, everyone. Take care, stay safe, keep thinking, keep fighting, and I will see you all next time here on Tuesday on the Stone. Ciao.